Hey, hello there friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel Cloud with Mohsin. Friends, today we are going to talk about AWS Certificate Manager, and this is your guide to SSL and TLS certificates on AWS. Okay. So before going to start with this video, I would request you all to please watch my video on SSL TLS certificates. I'll also share the link in the description. So please watch that video. You will get to know what is SSL and TLS, and that is very interesting. Okay. And then once you understand that, then please come back and see this video. Okay. Before going to start with this session, I'll quickly introduce myself. I am Mohsin Sheikh. I run this channel and I am 2 times AWS Cloud certified and 2 times Microsoft Azure Cloud certified professional. In my overall experience of 15-16 years, I had played various roles in my career, which involves operations, designing, integration, okay, architecture, etc. So that was about me, and this topic is going to be very interesting. And also with respect to exam, believe me, you will see couple of or plenty of questions with respect to SSL TLS certificates and AWS certificate managers related to that. So please ensure you understand the concept in a proper way. First of all, let's see which are the things we are going to cover today. Okay, we will first start with what is encryption in transit and encryption at rest. This point is very important. After that, we will have an overview of AWS Certificate Manager, which is in short we will call as ACM. What are the key features and benefits of ACM, its use cases, and how we can get started with ACM in the AWS. Okay. Finally, we will end our session with a conclusion of whatever we discuss as part of this session. I hope the agenda is clear to you all. Now I will start with the discussion about encryption in transit versus encryption at rest. So in my previous video I had touched base. It was not in detail how encryption in transit and encryption at rest works. So basically these things are very important for you to understand the overall security aspects. Okay, this is one part of security, but it is very important. Okay, so about encryption in transit. So when we say encryption in transit, in this case, when data is encrypted in transit, it means that the information is protected while traveling from one point to another point. Okay, just to give you an example, here in this diagram you can see you are transferring some data, okay, from your laptop or your endpoint to here. You can see this is application load balancer. So suppose you have a website that runs behind application load balancer, and you are transferring your data and it uses HTTPS connection. So here you will call it as encryption in transit. So here your data will be traveling from one point, that is from your endpoint to your application load balancer, and from your application load balancer to the respective EC2 instances as per the way you might have designed. Okay, so this encryption ensures that data cannot be intercepted or accessed by unauthorized parties during the transfer process. So here when the data is being transit, no one will be able to access or intercept it, okay, during the transfer process. So that is the main role of encryption in transit. So enabling encryption in transit is mainly responsible for that. However, it is important to note that encryption in transit does not guarantee that the data will remain encrypted once it reaches its destination. Means suppose you have uploading some files from your laptop to S3 buckets, say for example, using HTTPS connection. So even you are using encryption transit, it does not mean that once you have uploaded it, suppose here on your S3 bucket, it will remain encrypted, because at the receiver end it may be used for some processing. Okay, so it may be need to be decrypted and processed. Okay, so this point onwards, so once data is reached to the destination and it gets stored in some kind of storage device, So encryption at transit does not guarantee that it will remain encrypted. On that point onward, you will need to consider encryption at rest as well. So which means once you have data stored, you will need to encrypt that, so that the story will start there on. Okay, at the end point, the data may be decrypted to be used or processed by the receiving system, which may require additional security measures to maintain its confidentiality. So that's what we discuss right now, that encryption transit is just responsible the data which is traveling, or it is in data being transferred. It does not guarantee data will be remain encrypted at when it is stored. For that, we need to consider second part, that is encryption at rest. At rest meant when it is stored in your S3 bucket, or maybe some kind of device like your disk storage or EFS, elastic file storage. So it could be anything, but it is whenever it is stored. So encryption at rest refers to the process of protecting data that is stored on a disk or other storage medium from unauthorized access. Okay, so here, to give an example of how encryption at rest work is, suppose this is an encrypted S3 object. Suppose this is a file and you want to encrypt it. So in that case, you will go through this encryption process, and for that it uses DEK, that is data encryption key. Okay, so whenever you are uploading your data file to the S3 bucket, there are some you might have gone through, or once after our session end, I will also try to show you how the way it works. Okay, so in that case, so whenever you are uploading a file to the S3 bucket, it will ask you what kind of encryption do you want. So by default it is SSE S3, that is S3 encryption keys. Okay, so there could be other encryption methods as well, but SSE S3 is by default. It will go for if you have not chosen any encryption. Okay, and once you choose that and the data is uploaded, so in that case it will be encrypted. Okay, so you have file which is not encrypted, you have chosen your encryption method and it gets encrypted. So that is called as encryption at rest. Means your data in the S3 bucket is encrypted with kind of that algorithm that you have chosen, and no one would be able to access it or do some reprocessing on that with respect to that. So that is called as encryption at rest. I hope this point is very clear to you, and this is very important with respect to your exam. Okay, so you need to understand what is the key difference and how it works as a conceptual basis. Okay, here you will say in this case your application load balancer is your receiving entity, and this application load balancer has SSL or TLS enabled on that. Okay, so we will see about detail what are the services it works with respect to SSL and TLS. Okay, the integration, how it happens. Now to give an overview of AWS Certificate Manager. So AWS Certificate Manager, as the name itself suggests, so it manages the SSL and TLS certificates. It just helps us to provision, manage, deploy and renew SSL TLS certificates. Okay, it simplifies the process of securing web applications and websites. Say for example you have some web applications or websites running and you want to secure it. Okay, so you have already enabled using SSL or TLS certificates, and that SSL or TLS certificates has some expiry date. Okay, so once that certificate gets expired, means it will means that your web traffic or web application and website won't be having the secure communication in that case. So AWS Certificate Manager is the service which will enable you to provision, that is to create, manage, deploy as well as renew the certificates which are about to expire. Okay, we are going to see in the AWS management console how that is done. Okay, so about key features, so it has free SSL TLS certificate is one of the main key features. So it provides free certificates for use with AWS services. Okay, it has automatic renewal process, so it just automatically renews the certificate before they expire, ensuring continuous security. It has integration with different AWS services like Elastic Load Balancer, CloudFront, Amazon API Gateway, and there are these are just some of the services to mention. It also provides a private certificate authority. So with ACM we can get a public certificate or a private certificate. Suppose you want your certificate for the internal use only, so you don't want to share it. Okay, in that case you can go for private certificate, and it using ACM we can have the private certificate authority, that is CA. Security and compliance. So AWS Certificate Manager complies with the security guidelines, what are the best practices we follow, okay, for optimal protection, and it meets the industry standard like PCI DSS and HIPAA. So I'm not sure if you have heard or you are aware of this. So PCI DSS and HIPAA are just compliance standards, you can say. PCI stands for payment cards industry direct DSS, that is data security standards, and HIPAA is health insurance health information, sorry. So this is with respect to, these are the some of the compliance that are mainly these are the standard compliance like globally we are using. So it the SSL TLS, so whenever we are using ACM, that is AWS Certificate Manager, so it complies with your security as well as compliance. Okay, so that is in short about the key features. So now let's talk about what are the use cases where we can use ACM. So first and very common use case is to secure websites and applications. Okay, so ACM can be used to secure websites, web applications and mobile apps by protecting data in transit with SSL TLS encryption. We can either choose by SSL or TLS encryption. Encrypting API calls, we can secure communication between services. We can also secure IoT devices, that is Internet of Things devices, and internal resources. So we can protect internal applications and services using the ACM. Now how we can get started with ACM? So there are some common steps. Okay, it's very straightforward. First of all, we just need to request or import. So suppose we already have any certificate, we need to renew it. In that case we need to do the re-import, or if we are doing it for the first time, we need to request the certificate from the AWS console. Okay, so it is very easy and very straightforward. Once that is done, we can validate. So for validation, we can either validate by using DNS or email. Okay, so it will validate. Suppose for example you have a domain name, say example.com. okay, just to give an example. So in that case you want to import its certificate. So ACM will validate whether the domain ownership and whatever you are requested is valid. Okay, once it validates, so it will deploy the certificate. So we can use the newly issued or imported certificate in various AWS services like Elastic Load Balancing, Amazon CloudFront, etc. Which are the services which are responsible to do the load balance or to share the data. So mainly with respect to that, ACM will help us to deploy the certificates. Okay, now we are at the end of this session. So ACM is a service that simplifies the process of creating, managing and deploying SSL TLS certificates. Okay, it simplifies the process of securing web applications and websites. So the benefits of ACM are free, automated and integrated certificate management. The use cases of ACM includes it helps us to secure the websites, web application, mobile applications, etc. Encrypting API calls, security of the IoT devices, and protect internal applications and services. Okay, so now let me just move to AWS Management Console. As you can see, I am on my AWS Management Console. So where you will find Certificate Manager, you need to navigate to Services. If you scroll down to there will be security service, security, identity and compliance. You need to click on that, and in this service type, if you can see, you will see AWS Certificate Manager. Okay, so it says provision, manage and deploy SSL TLS certificate. Let me click on this one. Okay, so now on this page you can see, so it says new ACM manage certificate. So you can request a certificate or import a certificate if you already have obtained. Suppose you have obtained a certificate that is outside of AWS, you can import that certificate. Okay, also you can create private certificate authority hierarchies for your organization, so you can create it by this. Okay, now let me click on this one, list of certificate. It will show you that which are the certificate you already have. So right now I don't have any certificate. It means it is showing there are no certificate in my account. Okay, so if I need to request, I can either click on this request. If I want to renew, I can click on import, or I can also navigate on my left and click on request certificate. Now once you are on request certificate, it will say certificate type. Okay, so here, as we were covering in the session, we can either request a public certificate. So this is to request a public SSL or TLS certificate from Amazon. By default, public certificate are trusted by browser and operating system. So this is public certificate. If you want to request a private certificate for internal requirement, you can go for request a private certificate. Okay, once you choose, then you can click on next. I will just go with the public certificate. I can click on next. Here the first thing is, it is domain names. Okay, so we can provide one or more domain names for your certificate. For example, I can go, okay, obviously it needs to be a valid one, example.com, just for to give an just for this demo purpose. Okay, like that. So once we provide a valid, so it needs to be valid. Okay, so this needs to be existing and it should be valid. Once you have that, we can go for the validation method. So we can either choose for DNS validation, which is a recommended method, or either we can go for email validation. So we can go and choose either. Out of that, DNS validation is the recommended. Okay, so why it is recommended is, we can choose if we are authorized to modify DNS configuration for the domain in the certificate request. So if that is the applicable, if we are able to modify the DNS configuration of that particular domain, if we have that access to configure the DNS related thing, then we can go for DNS validation. Otherwise we can go for the email validation. Okay, here also you can see, choose this option if you do not have permission or cannot obtain permission to modify DNS configuration for the domains in your certificate request. As I mentioned, if we don't have access, then we can go for email validation. Here we need to provide validation domain optional. This is optional. Okay, and key algorithm. So we can select an encryption algorithm, for example RSA 2048. So it is most widely used key type. Okay, otherwise we have the other two types. Okay, that is ACD P256 and ACD 384. So we can either choose for that, but RSA 2048 most widely used. We can have or attach some tags. For example, I can say environment. Suppose this is with respect to my development. Okay, and we can add up to 50 tags. So since I have added one, I have remained 49 tags more. Okay, and once I have filled all these details, I can click on request. Okay, but right now I don't have this example.com or whatever, say it could be example.org, whatever, but it should be your fully qualified domain name which is valid one. Okay, that is existing, then only I can click on request. So I'm not going to do that because I don't have example.com domain. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but once you fill the detail, you can click on request. Okay, so I'll just click on cancel for now. Okay, with respect to importing, so suppose you have a certificate that is outside of the AWS domain. In that case, you can come in the certificate, select that particular certificate. You can do from either here you can select the particular certificate and click on import, and in that case you will need to fill these details like certificate body, certificate private key, and that will be certificate chain. So this one is optional, but you will need to fill these details and click on certificate, import certificates. And if these details, like suppose private key and the certificate body, if you have uploaded the details which are correct, and once you import, then you will see that it has been successfully imported, and that extension of your certificate. So it will say that your certificate has been successfully imported and it has been renewed for suppose 2 years or 1 year, whatever is depending upon case to case. So this is the things about AWS Certificate Manager. About private CA, if you click on AWS Private Certificate Authority, it will open up in this new page. Okay, so this is with respect to, suppose if you want to create your private certificate authority, and it will enable to create private certificate with respect to, if you want you for the internal purpose. Okay, in that case you can go for the private certificate authority CA. Okay, so I'm not going to cover, but you can if you have that requirement, you can go for that one. Now in this topic I was discussing about when I was covering that encryption at rest. Okay, I will just show you how it works. So let me just go to say S3 bucket. Okay, I will just create on a bucket. Let me click randomly anything. Okay, and I won't select anything, and here you can see default encryption. So this I was referring with the encryption at rest. What it says, it is server side encryption is automatically applied to new objects stored in this bucket. So this is encryption at rest. You have options, the 3 options, like server side encryption with Amazon S3 managed key. SSC S3 is the default that we discussed earlier. Apart from that, we can also go for server side encryption with AWS KMS, that is SSC KMS, and there's a dual layer of SSC KMS that is called as the SSE KMS. So we can either select either of these encryption. Okay, and by default is SSC S3. So this means whenever you are uploading any objects with respect to this. Okay, let me just create a this bucket. Okay, now suppose this is my bucket. Suppose I want to upload any file. I'll click on upload. I'll click on add files. Okay, and suppose this file I want to upload, just to give you an example. Okay, now what I wanted to show is, if you go to properties, in the property you can select the storage class. Okay, and server side encryption, you can either go for server side encryption, which is don't specify encryption key and specify encryption key. Okay, so if I click on specify encryption key, okay, here you can see, so whenever you are selecting this one, if you go for default, it will go for SSE S3. Okay, but if you don't want with this one, you can go for SSE KMS or DSSE KMS. Okay, so you will need to have your KMS key with respect to that. Okay, here you will need to enter the ARN, that is Amazon resource name of that, this one. Okay, so like that you can create. Since I have these KMS keys, I can create choose them. So this will ensure your data encryption at rest. So that's how I wanted to cover. So friends, I hope you got the point. Okay, so I hope this ACM session was useful for you to understand how ACM work helps us to create, manage, import your certificates, SSL TLS certificates, and helps in the various use cases. So friends, thank you so much for your time. I hope okay, Yeah, this was useful, and please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is Cloud with Mohsin. Thank you so much for your time, and talk to you in another such lesson. Okay, take care. Bye bye.